Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's do a whole new entry here. This one yet again based on one of your newer suggestions. This one also linked to yet another entry in the world of Native American mythology. So I've talked about several videos on that subject within this past maybe a couple of months, and that was more recently, and then I've talked about that in the past too. So always happy to share yet another entry here within that world. This one also has to do with a set of cryptids or entities that you may have a chance to come across them if you visit a certain location near the Atlantic coast, and who knows, they could still be there roaming to this day. So I'll also explain how we're able to come across them in a peaceful manner, in a manner that will essentially allow you to cross their world and do so in a way that's respectful to them. So it has to do with this. You're looking at them now. They're known, well, they go by various names, but more commonly they're known as the Memegwesi. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the fascinating info about these creatures, again linked to Native American mythology. So who are these Memegwesi? Well, because they've been linked to Native American mythology, they've been around for a long time. In fact, a whole multitude of tribes, too many to name on the Native American side, have been linked to them. They've been talking about them for generations, essentially, and then talking about their experiences with them. In fact, the way I read some of the information on this, it seems like the Memegwesi were very much part of a very old set of Native American tribes, those that no longer exist, and then they in turn became their own, I guess, species, if you could call it, and then they coexisted afterward with some of the newer tribes. As far as their physical characteristics is this: they look very humanoid, but there's still a lot of differences associated with their physical look. So, for example, they're almost child-sized, probably even smaller than a child when it comes to their height. They tend to have very large forehead, but narrow faces towards the bottom. They also seem to have what can be described as a thick set of hair, almost fairy-like is what I looked at one of the descriptions. So imagine like your average fairy being described in any kind of storybook. That's essentially what they have here when it comes to their hair. And then also they have these thin arms and these longer legs, even though their size, of course, is much smaller. And that's because of the fact that they are expert rock climbers and expert fishermen, especially when it comes to being able to jump into the waters and steal some fish. And then lastly, with regards to their physical characteristics, you can come across them and know that they're in their presence because of the voice that they make. Apparently, the sound that comes out of their throats is that of a dragonfly. So you know that strong buzzing noise that dragonflies make whenever they're, let's say, near your area. That's essentially how these Memegwesi communicate with each other. That's their voice. So if you happen to be suddenly in one of those areas and you hear what sounds like a language, like almost like a symphony of these dragonfly noises, then that's when you're near these Memegwesi. And where you find them again, you have to go to the Atlantic coast specifically. You probably can go to the Great Lakes is what I was reading in some areas. And then also they seem to hug a lot of the rivers, a lot of the coastal lines that have large rocks, because that's where they hide themselves. Apparently they've been living for generations, eons probably, just behind these giant rocks, coexisting, like almost having a huge tribe, like their own set of tribes behind these rocks, a huge infrastructure, their own civilization behind them, but they're experts at camouflaging themselves, experts at making themselves ensure that they are not found. In fact, I was almost reading that in some ways, in order to come across their habitat, you have to almost go through these rocks in a magical manner in order to be sure that you can actually occupy their same space. And then also that ties into another thing. Apparently, they can make themselves seen to only a particular set of people. Like, for example, children are more prone to seeing them as opposed to adults. But at the same time, they can actually make themselves visible to everyone if needed. So who knows how they're able to do this, but they seem to also have some very fascinating set of powers associated with them. One other thing tied to with those powers, it ties into their medicine. Apparently, the reason why so many of these tribes knew them for so many many generations is because they knew of the strong skill these Memegwesi had when it came to their medicine. So strong was this medicine that many of the Native American shamans were able to go to those encampments that the Memegwesi went to, like lived at, and then they were able to go to them and ask them in a respectful manner to see if they could trade anything associated with this medicine. And that included bringing gifts. So a lot of times, if you go to those locations and if you want to essentially have a good peaceful manner with them, you can bring gifts such as tobacco or their specialty, which is fresh fish. Apparently, if you bring fish to them, especially fish that is just recently caught, they go crazy for that stuff. So if you do that, then they're able to reward you, and usually they do so by providing some kind of enchanted stone, something there that apparently contains their very strong medicine, and that you can use for yourself or for others for whatever purpose that medicine is. But fascinating stuff, no, when it comes to this entire world, this Memegwesi that apparently exists within these rocks. One other thing I'll mention too is that with regards to having this entire civilization, there's also various forms of Memegwesi. I guess it all depends on their age. Like, for example, there's ones that are considered younglings. These are the smallest of the group, the youngest ones. They tend to be more, I guess you call it, fearless, more courageous, more mischievous as well. They're the ones that are known to try to get as close as possible to humans and still not try to make themselves seen, but at the same time making mistakes and then accidentally get not caught, but get seen by people that are there surrounding them. So they're the ones that people probably on the Native American side saw most often, especially when it came to them trying to steal their fish. That's how mischievous they are. These Native American tribes, they would cast these nets out and into the rivers, and they would catch all these fish. Well, lo and behold, here's this set of younglings from the Memegwesi coming by and then trying to steal their fish, either swimming underwater directly underneath the canoes, or in some cases, even on a more mischievous, almost a sinister side, tipping the canoes over so that way they could have those fish to themselves, and then they would scamper off and run off as quickly as possible. Of course, it was still very hard to catch these younglings, even if you did see them and you tried to stop them from doing so, because of the way they're able to just crawl around and move around because of their expert guidance, like because their bodies are essentially made for that. And then finally, there's the braves as well. These are, I guess you could call them the more adult Memegwesi. These are the ones that are considered more on the lines of, I don't know if they're the hunters, but they're the ones that are more of the ones taking care of the families there. And then lastly, there's the elders. The elders are the ones that have been there the longest. They too wear their hair in a certain fashion, and in this case it apparently showcases their status as the seniors of the group. They in turn don't really seem to be mischievous or doing hunting or taking care of families. It seems like more it's them just relaxing, just doing things as far as arts, and then carving things within the rocks, which is another sign too. If you come across an occupation from the Memegwesi, you'll get to see some of their artwork, whatever they've done in terms of carving things within the rocks themselves or even painting them there. Then that's essentially from them. That's from the elders within the Memegwesi. But again, where you can find them is still, you have to go to the North Atlantic areas. You have to go towards the coastal shores. If you happen to hear those sounds, well, it sounds like, again, a song or a symphony of these voices that are coming from streams or waterfalls or boulders, and it sounds like something along the lines of a dragonfly. That's essentially where they're at. You can bring gifts, like I was mentioning earlier. Bring some freshly caught fish, bring some tobacco, leave it there, and that's supposed to also be a form of good luck. That way you'll essentially have good fortunes if you come across their area, and they're not going to do anything bad to you. That is another thing as well. Apparently, there's not too many more sightings these days. So many of these North American tribes, Native American tribes, have moved from their older lands over to areas now that are away from these locations, but still there have been every now and then peaks with regards to it. In fact, when I was reading all this information, it reminded me of this. I don't know how long ago this video was. It might have been like a year or two, but wasn't there a video of these guys? They had a set of these dirt bikes, and then they had GoPros on their helmets. They were riding around, and all of a sudden they saw this tiny person like right in front of them. And then the way this person appeared, it was almost like it was alert, like all of a sudden it was caught when it shouldn't have been caught visually by these people on the dirt bikes. And so it started running away from them, and one of them gave chase. But no matter how quickly they went on their dirt bike, this particular little person ran very, very, very fast until it jumped into one of the grassy areas there and then just completely disappeared behind it. So when I was reading this, I was wondering, could that have been it? Could this have been a Memegwesi that these people came across, these people on the dirt bike? And if so, because of the size of it, because of how it looked and how it ran, how quickly it was getting away from them, I kept thinking, I'm wondering if this is such a case. But let me know what you guys think with regards to that particular link. But if anyone has any more info, anything else I might have missed, please post those comments below. Good news is, if you do come across these creatures, they are known, again, as I mentioned earlier, as being benign. So that's not going to be anything bad when it comes to, let's say, having fear or having any kind of harm coming from them or being fearful towards them. So as long as you respect their areas, as long as you can hopefully leave some gifts, then you'll be fine. But if anyone knows any more info, happens to be from those areas too, maybe from even the Native American families, anyone that has past family members that knew more, let's say, legends associated with these Memegwesi, please post those comments below. All right, everyone. Thanks again as always. Take care.